Hi, I'm Linus Sebastian and welcome to another edition of NCIX Tech Tips. Today we'll be learning how to build one of these. It doesn't look like much, but what it is what we're going to call a good enough gaming system. Basically, it's what you can get by with to play the latest games at decent resolution without breaking the bank. We put this system together for less than $600 before mail-in rebates, so we think that you're going to find it a very good value. So here on the table in front of me, I have all of the components we're going to be using for our good enough gaming system. The first of which is the Intel Pentium dual-core processor. The next of which is the Seagate Serial ATA hard drive that we're going to be using. After that is the system memory. We'll be using Corsair Value Select Memory. Next is our power supply, which is a very important component of any system. We're going to be using a Corsair 450VX 450 watt power supply. And I'm just going to lift that up a little bit so that you can see it a little better here. Next is our optical drive. We're going to be using a Samsung Serial ATA DVD burner. After that is the video card. We're going to be using an EVGA GeForce 8500 GT video card. All of this will be installed on a Gigabyte P35 based ATX motherboard. And then the whole thing is going to go, for the sake of making it easy to demonstrate, we're going to be using a high-speed PC tech station in order to show you all the installation steps. It's very open. It's going to be quite easy to see what we're doing. First step, after you've found a comfortable workplace for yourself, is to install the CPU on the motherboard. So we're just going to show how to open up the packaging for the CPU. You just rip the tab along the top of the box here, and it opens up just like that. We're going to be using the stock cooler today, so just break open the clamshell packaging. Inside, you will find the CPU, as well as a stock cooler. So we'll just put those aside for now. Packaging should of course be stacked somewhere neatly for warranty purposes, because you could be required to send the package back if anything is defective. Motherboards are almost always located under the manuals and other accessories. So you go ahead and pull the motherboard out of the box. Take off the anti-static bag. A really good practice is to put the anti-static bag down on your work surface when you're going to be working on the motherboard, but never power it up with the bag under the board, because this can cause a short on the back. Installing the CPU is actually quite straightforward. Just take off the little tab, lift up the lever, and you can see that there are two notches on the bottom of the CPU. Just line those up with the ones inside the socket, pull down the mechanism, pull down the arm, and there you go, your CPU is installed on the board. Once the CPU is installed on the motherboard, the next step is to install the stock Intel heatsink. As you can see, there's thermal compound already applied to the bottom of the heatsink. This enables good thermal transfer between your CPU and your heatsink. You can see a little bit of residue on the CPU. I had actually already put it down before we started filming, but just ignore that. That wouldn't normally be there. So line up these 4 pegs here with the 4 holes around the CPU socket. And then what you're going to do is press each one down, one corner at a time, until you hear a click. I'm going to be quiet when I'm pushing the next one in. You'll hear a click. Sometimes it's necessary, particularly on the last one, see this little piece of metal right here? To put a little bit of pressure on that and then push down the peg. There we go, till you hear a click. You can see that's on there quite secure. Next thing is to plug the fan into the CPU fan header, just like that. There you go. Now that we've got the CPU heatsink installed, next thing we're going to do is install the system memory. Most system memory comes in a little clamshell package like this, so just open it up carefully, preferably down on the table, so that if it does fall out like that, it'll fall on the table. Always handle memory by the sides and install it. Actually, if you need better instructions on installing memory than we're doing here, you can see our last Tech Tips video, Tech Tips number 3. So just apply pressure in the center of the memory once the tabs are open until they both snap in. We're using DDR2 memory. And there we go. Now it's secure. Now that we've installed our RAM and CPU, it's much easier to get at these sorts of things outside the case, so that's why we install them before we put it inside. So now we can go ahead and put the motherboard in the case. You can see that inside our case here, we have these little rubber standoffs that the motherboard's going to sit on. That keeps it from conducting electricity and shorting out the back of the board. In a normal case, you'd actually have little brass standoffs where these are that you'd have to screw in yourself into the back of the motherboard tray. Then you line up the motherboard and use a screw to secure it. So we're just going to go ahead and install this inside our case. There you go. So you can see that if this were a normal case, this would be the back of the PC where all the ports are. This would be the top, and this would be the front. So now that the motherboard's installed, the next thing we're going to do is install our video card. Just going to slice open the packaging here. There we go. Open that up. Alright, so inside the video card packaging you'll find a whole bunch of accessories that you may or may not use. A lot of the time, particularly mid-range video cards like this will include things like HD TV out, as well as a DVI to VGA adapter so that you can hook an older CRT monitor up to it. So we're just going to go ahead and put the packaging away now. You can see the bottom of the video card uses a PCI Express 16X connector, so it's a long connector. That will correspond to the PCI Express 16X connector on your motherboard. You can see it's colored blue on this one. So we are going to go ahead and install the video card into the PCI Express connector. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, now that we've got our video card installed, is install the drives. So both of our drives use SATA hookups. So that means that at the back of the drive, you've got a SATA power, which is the longer one, and SATA data connector, which is the shorter one. So in order to hook up the hard drive, in a case, normally what you do is you would screw into the sides or the bottom of the drive, but we're just going to rest it on the neoprene pad on our tech station here. And we're going to install the data connectors now. So the data connector goes into an open SATA port on your board. You can see they're colored yellow on our Gigabyte board. And then that goes into the back of the hard drive. Actually, I'm going to do that over here. Once that's done, then we're just going to slide that away out of the way for now. The optical drive is a fairly similar affair. At the back, you can see the same SATA power and SATA data connectors. This one we're actually just going to leave up on the top because the tech station doesn't have a place to mount it, but once again you would normally screw it in from the sides into the front of your case. So we're just going to plug in our data connector and plug that into an open SATA connection on the motherboard.